Things looking crazy, a storm on the horizon. The pressure is low, gotta get moving, put on a show. The news is all buzzing, state of alert, but we've got a plan, we're ready to work. Emergency Management Associates, we're here for the crisis, we're here for the face. From the first sign of trouble to the all clear sign, we're on the front lines, we're one of a kind. Emergency Management Associates, we're the calm in the chaos, we're opening gates, connecting the dots and making the calls. We're picking you up when you're starting to fall. See a little fire or a rising flood, we're a well-oiled machine, we're running in the mud. From the city hall meetings to the rescue teams, turning worst case scenarios into hopeful dreams. We're training the people, we're stocking the gear, we're the team you can count on when trouble is near. Emergency Management Associates, we're here for the crisis, we're here for the face. From the first sign of trouble to the all clear sign, we're on the front lines, we're one of a kind. Emergency Management Associates, we're the calm in the chaos, we're opening gates, connecting the dots and making the calls. We're picking you up when you're starting to fall. It's more than a job, it's a calling you see, prepared for the present and what's yet to be. Every second counts, we're ready to react for our communities, we're making an impact. Emergency Management Associates, we're here for the crisis, we're here for the fates. From the first sign of trouble to the all clear sign, we're on the front lines, we're one of a kind. Emergency Management Associates, we're the calm in the chaos, we're opening gates, connecting the dots, we're making the calls. We're picking you up when you're starting to fall. Yeah, we're picking you up, we're ready to go. Yeah, man, let's get this show on the road.
Let's get this show on the road, guys. What do you say? Let's do it right now. How about them apples? Let's do it right now, guys. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Welcome to our show, guys. We're glad to be here with you. We're going to talk about a few big earthquakes around the globe. We're going to be talking about what's going on with the San Andreas Fault. We're also going to be talking about, at the very end, earthquake preparedness, what you need to do to be prepared for a major earthquake and what we'll do to you if you don't. So please stay tuned to this program. We're going to cover it all today. We appreciate you all being here with us. We honestly do. Now, guys, I'm going to take down our banner here. I'm going to take down a webcam, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem, and then we're going to go over here to the USGS map. So stay tuned with us for just a few minutes. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. Everyone, please rise. We'd appreciate that very much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Oh, yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it. America's finest right there.
America's finest right there, absolutely. The United States Army Barbershop Quartet performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2020. We appreciate these men doing this for us. We appreciate them serving their country as they do. We appreciate all of our military, wherever they might be, including our Coast Guard, for helping to protect this country and giving us a way of life we can depend on. We love our military guys. We love them no matter where they are. God bless them. May God protect them. May God return them to their families when their tours of duty end. God bless you all. We thank you very much for your service. We love you guys. We really do. Now, guys, as we go into this program, please remember, we need your support, okay? Several of our own members have given truly out of their back pockets to help us stay on the air. We still need your help. We still need your help to stay on the air. We appreciate it as well. Please feel free to donate to our PayPal here. During our program, you see our PayPal address is going across the bottom of your screen. You can also send us letters and cards to our post office box, 504 Bethel Road, box 401, Morganton, North Carolina. Our zip code here is 28655. We appreciate that greatly. Also, during our program, we set up a goal here for those people who want to help contribute to our program on the Super Chat. You can give us up to 10 Super Chats, guys. If we get up to 10 Super Chats of at least $5 each, then we will perform or host a question answer session for this channel. We're going to do that, guys. We promise you we will do that. Also, if you want to join this channel as members, down below this program in our program description, the top of the program description, we have a join button. Click on that link and it'll send you to be a member of our program. And it only costs as little as $1.99 to join as a member of our program. We'd really appreciate that as well to help support this program. May God bless you all. We appreciate you all being here. With that said, let's get into this program, guys. I want you to understand what we're doing here. Okay? United States Geological Survey has a map. We've got that up here for you. Right now, we're showing one earthquake south of the Philippines. That's wrong. There are actually 8 aftershocks right now, 8 aftershocks from a 7.4 earthquake that hit here about 5 weeks ago. 8 aftershocks. Okay, that's a lot more than they're showing here. They never, ever They never ever show all the earthquakes on the map, ever. No matter what they are, no matter what they're doing, they never show all the earthquakes here on the map. I don't care what is happening, they never do. Okay? They're showing one earthquake here. This earthquake aftershock is a 4.9, 5.0 earthquake. They're still getting large earthquakes here. They're aftershocks, guys. That's because the original earthquake was a 7.4 earthquake here. It's happening, ongoing. When you get these major earthquakes like we did here, southwest of the Philippines, you're going to have aftershocks for months and even years after the earthquake hits. That's what we're seeing here. We're also seeing the same thing happen over in Central America. Over in Central America here, off the coast of southern Mexico. Off the coast of southern Mexico. Guys, they're not even showing the aftershocks from the earthquake here in southern Mexico last week. They're not showing it. Why not? Why not? There are earthquakes here. They're still not showing the earthquakes, guys. They never, ever do. They show them for a time period, but they never, ever come back and show us what's going on. Earthquakes down here number in 10 to 15 aftershocks today. 10 to 15 aftershocks today so far. Over here in northern part of southern Mexico here, actually eastern part of southern Mexico here, guys, this is a 4.8 moderate earthquake here. 4.8 moderate earthquake, some 2.5 miles southeast of Francisca Rueda, Mexico. 3.5 miles or 7 kilometers southeast of Francisco Rueda, Mexico. Okay, that's just one of many earthquakes here. Total between the northern border of Guatemala and up here near Puerto Vallarta, there are 49 earthquakes here in southern Mexico. From Puerto Vallarta south down here to the border of Guatemala here. That's a lot of earthquakes. USGS still doesn't show them. I don't believe they ever will. They haven't showed earthquakes here for a very long time. Now, with that said, south of South America here, in the Drake Passage, right before we came on there, we had another earthquake here. This is a very large 5.7 earthquake. A very large 5.7 earthquake south of South America in the Drake Passage here. Okay? 5.7 very large earthquake here. Now this energy is going to come over here and go down here along the Antarctic Ridge, and it's going to move over here into the South Atlantic Ocean. It's going to move up here in the South Atlantic Ocean sometime within the next probably 5 to 6 days. Don't think it'll take any longer than that. We also have one other earthquake here in the South Sandwich Islands. This is a 4.9, 5.0 earthquake here in the South Sandwich Islands. It's also going to move over here into the South Atlantic Ocean and move up the Mid-Atlantic Fault here. It's going to move up the Mid-Atlantic Fault. Okay? We have other earthquakes here that are also doing the same thing. Again, USGS not showing us everything's going on here. Okay? They don't want to admit what's happening. That's a bad situation here. That's a very bad situation. Now, when we're talking about big earthquakes here, we're talking about big earthquakes. Over here in Argentina, okay, Argentina near the Chilean border here in the Andes Mountains. This is a large 5.3 earthquake here. 5.3 earthquake, okay? This is 193 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow quake. South of there is a 4.8 moderate earthquake here. North of there, this is over in southern Peru, near Palca, Peru. This is a 4.3 earthquake near Palca, Peru, and you got to remember where Palca, Peru is. This is on the western side of the Sabancaya volcano. This is on the western side of the Sabancaya volcano. Sabancaya volcano is not erupting at the present time, but it has been. Southern Cayuga volcano has been erupting for a very long time. Not erupting at present, but this is another earthquake here, a 4.3 earthquake here in southern Peru. Now, guys, these are not the only earthquakes here in South America at all. Okay? There are some 53 earthquakes here in South America. 53 earthquakes. About half of those are down here in central Chile, Argentina region. For the most part, about another half of them are over here in northern Chile. The rest of them are either here in Peru or over here in Venezuela. Lots of earthquakes here in Venezuela. Okay? Again, USGS is not going to show them to us. Also, just so you know, okay, out here, okay, we have the outlying islands here off the coast of South America. The outlying islands here, okay? These islands range from over here in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and U.S. British Virgin Islands. We have a bunch of outlying islands here. They've also had some earthquakes. They've also had earthquakes. 4.2 to 4.9 earthquakes here in the outlying islands between U.S. British Virgin Islands and South America here. They have earthquakes here. USGS is not even showing us yet. Okay? Not at all. Besides that, let's go over here to Vanuatu. Vanuatu, guys, guess what? Earlier today, we had a very strong 6.0 earthquake here. Very strong 6.0 earthquake happened. This happened at about 7:54 Eastern Time in the United States. This happened late last night. Okay, it's now Saturday there now. That happened late last night during their dark period. A 6.0 earthquake here in the Pacific Ocean. In the Pacific Ocean now, guys. I've pulled it up so you can totally see what's going on here. Okay? Out in Vanuatu. Now, guys, this earthquake is 82 kilometers west of Sola, Vanuatu. West of Sola, Vanuatu. Sola, Vanuatu is over here on the east coast of Vanuatu here. Towards Vanuatu. Okay? Off the coast here, nobody felt this earthquake at all. The Pacific Ocean waters absorbed the shockwaves from this quake. Besides that, they're only showing one aftershock. They have 6 aftershocks here. This aftershock happens to be a 5.1 large earthquake. 5.1 large aftershock here. Okay? Now, I want to go down here into New Zealand, into the southern part of the North Island here. The southern part of the North Island here. Now, guys, late last night, early this morning, Vanuatu time, this earthquake hit in the middle of the night, midnight, just after midnight in New Zealand. It's now Friday during the day. This happened just after midnight, Friday night, New Zealand, early Saturday morning. This earthquake was a 5.7 very large earthquake. I'm going to repeat that. This was a 5.7 very large earthquake here. Notice where it's at. Notice where it's at. There are towns around it. Some of those towns had windows broken in their homes and businesses. Windows that were broken in their homes and businesses. No, we have no reports of big damage, no reports of major damage, and no injuries or deaths reported after this earthquake. We have no injuries or deaths reported after this earthquake. And in fact, let me tell you about this earthquake, guys. Let me tell you about this earthquake. I have information from survivors of this quake. One person said, "Oh my goodness, that was frightening. Our whole house is moving so much and for so very long." Aftershocks are scary because you can hear them before they happen. Okay? You can hear earthquakes before they happen. It's like a low growl. How many times have people told us that over the years? I feel like all these large earthquakes happening lately are just a preview. Remember that. All these earthquakes happening lately are just a preview. This woman said she needs an LED headset to New Zealand survivor. She needs another sleeping bag, maybe a small tent, and some water purification methods. Otherwise, she thinks she's sorted. A woman named Debbie Booth. Biggest shake we had was in Taihape for a long time. It was a shaker more than a roller. David Sawyer, New Zealand, says they were up near Topo Lake. They lived up near Topo Lake. Now, guys, let me show you where Topo Lake is up here on the map here. Topo Lake is up here to the north here, central New Zealand. Central New Zealand, guys, right here. Topo Lake is a super volcano here. They live over here in Topo, New Zealand, right here to the north side of the lake. North side of the lake. They live a good distance from this earthquake. They live a good distance from this earthquake, some probably 90 kilometers from the earthquake. 90 kilometers from the earthquake. Absolutely nothing in Topo, but reports of it felt in Rotorua and surrounding areas. David Sawyer says he didn't feel anything. Another person in Topo says they woke up after this earthquake hit because it was strong, but they didn't feel a whole lot of anything. Leah, I felt one coming before bed. She felt it before she even went to bed. Sarah Jane Parker said she lives in Raumati Beach, Raumati Beach. She said, I woke up to my cat bolting off the bed, going outside, all's fine, no work today, thankfully. This is Saturday there already. Didn't have to go to work today. Catherine Webb Breilerman says, I felt it in Avondale, windows were shaking, there was loud noise at the same time. They were near the earthquake, a very large earthquake. They felt it. Another person, Margaret Thomas, says, woke me up in Cambridge. Rachel Hymoan Oxham says, was long and gentle shake in Taranaki. Nothing fell over, but so not very strong. So not very strong, but noticeable enough to wake me up and swing the lights overhead. Nikki Boo says, rocking Rotorua. Rotorua is south of the earthquake. Melissa Nixon says, long rolling one here in Waikanae. Not to mention the quake. News Talk New Zealand 5 a.m. news said they only had a few callers telling the overnight host about it. I don't think he felt it in Auckland. Auckland is far north of there on the north part of the island, far north of Auckland in New Zealand. Now they go on to the regular Saturday morning programming. Would have thought they would have prioritized the quake, taken more calls, and want to scare people. They're still listening to the station, hoping for reassurance and updates about the earthquake. Ben Dunbar, I slept through it all day. I did wake up in the night thinking about the long patient number 9 by Ozzy Osbourne. Sue Smiley said, I thought it was my husband rolling over in bed. They live in Tamaruni. Around 5 a.m., I just felt another aftershock at 8:35 a.m. This happened just after midnight. 8 hours later, at 8:35 a.m., they still felt another aftershock. Again, USGS not even showing the aftershocks for this earthquake. Been feeling them since the big one. Felt Te Hahi Bay bias, but I don't mind the rolling ones. It's about ones we hate. Imagine the people closer would have felt more. Felt the aftershock also, but minimal wobble for us. Sylvia Herman says, in Tornami, that was freaky. Stuff fell off the shelves. Wondering how the supermarket is. I don't think we'll go for a walk this morning, but it's raining anyway. One of my daughters had quite a bit of damage at their place. We still here have a few rumbles from aftershocks. Some windows in town were broken. Patricia Dalton says, interestingly, my animals were fine. Not even a meow or a bark. Useless warning system LOL. Jojo Carroll. She said, husband rang me up. He's in Taranaki, woke the house up. Sari O'Brien also wrote here. Felt the tremor here in Te Kawata as well. Felt it far down south. Another person says, Tavrithri Jayathunga says, yes, it was scary. Very scary shake. My bed was shaking. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Another person wrote and said, her name was Katie Dobby. She said here, I felt it in Waigamata, which I believe is far to the east. My dog woke me up about 20 minutes before my bed shook. Her dog woke her up 20 minutes before the earthquake actually hit. Isn't that interesting? Dogs know what's going on. They have feelings for what happens. The dog in this case woke her up 20 minutes before the bed shook. Incredible. Incredible what dogs and animals do here. Another person, Anna Surevea, said, felt it in Auckland. Again, Auckland's quite a bit further to the north. I wouldn't have thought. They live about 300 miles north of this earthquake in New Zealand. Felt it in Auckland, thought it was very strong wind. But yes, the house was shaking. Isn't that interesting? The person in the radio station in Auckland didn't feel it, but she did. Her house is shaking. Vanessa Tremaine said this. Here in Tamaruri, I had photos fall off the wall, mirror broken, things falling off the shelves in the pantry. We've told you this before, okay? Large earthquakes can cause a large amount of damage, okay? Furniture falling away from walls, usually during a moderate earthquake, which is a 4.0 to 4.9. Pictures and plaques fall off of walls, books, knickknacks fall off of shelves. In this case, she had photos falling off the wall, one of her mirrors was broken, things falling off the shelves in the pantry. Another one here. Shirley Rata says, felt nothing in Wellington. Wellington is further to the south. She said nothing felt in Wellington, which I'm very happy about. They're awful to experience. Curtis Mossy said this, okay? Gentle rolling wobble, while the whole house made a knocking noise in South Auckland. Again, that's about 300 miles to the north. Okay? Again, the radio station disc jockey or the person talking during the late night programming said they didn't feel it. But there were people who felt it here in Auckland, New Zealand, far to the north. Unreal. Unreal. Now, guys, the reason we're sharing this with you is so you'll have a good idea what happens during these earthquakes. This is one of the first times we've shared these ideas, how people felt during the earthquakes. This was a large 5.7 earthquake, and actually it came out as a 6.2 USGS downgrade to 5.7. Megan Gribble, nothing in Hastings, New Zealand. Janice Turk, yes, those of us that watched knew something was brewing. Take care. Okay? Bernadette Stahl said, if anyone was frightened or suffered damage, my heart goes out to you. in North Ayatora. Doesn't have a name, but they live in North Ayatora, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Worse than I felt before. Worst one I've ever felt. Bed felt like the movie Exorcist. The dog broke through the pet gate to get to us, but all is good. That's a good thing. Donna Marie Ritchie says, certainly felt in Te Kuki, Kuiti, Te Kuki, New Zealand. Patricia Carlson. She said, didn't feel it, but think it is a foreshock to something bigger. Hope all you have your supplies in order. Michael Glegg. Jonathan Dobaz. No wonder it was a good shake. Georgia Irving. It was likely a long one while waiting at Wellington Airport. Karen Brown says, got me off my bed for work early today. They live in Fielding, New Zealand. Rusty's Nana, felt in Hawara, New Zealand. Cindy Ann said she heard it coming long and strong in New Plymouth, New Zealand. Cats freaked out. Our pup freaked out a little bit too. Carlene James. Again, this is way up in New Auckland, about 300 miles away. Didn't feel anything. Andrea Howell. Woke up most of Tokura. Lois Ruruku. Ruruku. I felt it, but wasn't too bad. I was still in bed and only felt it shaking. Earlene Chambers. It woke me up in Martin, was a long one. Yep, I felt pretty strong in Ohakuni. Bed was shaking, windows and mirrors were rattling around, very loud as well. That's what happened in New Zealand today. 5.7 earthquake here in New Zealand. Unreal. We've been reporting about a lot of earthquakes here in New Zealand. This is not the only earthquake to hit here. USGS never shows earthquakes here in New Zealand, almost never. They show this 5.7 only probably because they felt they had to. There are about 28 earthquakes here in New Zealand, both on North and South Island here. They're still not reporting aftershocks here. Not doing it. Whatever the reason, they're not doing it. Over here in Vanuatu, we have another aftershock here. USGS is reporting a 5.0 aftershock just hit here. 5.0 aftershock just hit in Vanuatu. We go over here to Papua Indonesia here. Papua Indonesia, this is a 5.1 earthquake here. They're Aveyah, Indonesia. 5.1 large earthquake here. Okay? Now we hardly have anything else going on worth reporting here. I've told you most of what's happened already. This earthquake happened over here in near Adak, Alaska yesterday. We already reported on this here. I'm going to go over here to the southern part of the Pacific Northwest site, Cascade subduction zone. This earthquake is on the Gorda Escarpment. On the Gorda Escarpment, about 168 miles from Petrolia, California. Actually, it's 209 kilometers, 168 miles west of Ferndale and Petrolia, California. This is a small 3.1 earthquake. Small 3.1 earthquake. Yesterday over here on the Blanca fracture zone, we had a 4.3 earthquake here. The day before that, we had a 5.3 here on the Blanca fracture zone. Now, guys, just because USGS didn't show earthquakes here doesn't mean we didn't have them. Just means they don't want to show them to us. They want plausible deniability that nothing happened here, so they're not going to have to report it. That's how they feel. If we don't show it didn't happen, so we don't have to report on it. That's how they work. That's really how they work. Now, guys, let's talk about earthquakes in Southern California that happened last night. Down here, again on the San Andreas Fault. Last night, after 12:30 a.m. this morning here in the Pacific time zone. In the Pacific time zone, they had 18 earthquakes here. Earlier today, they showed 3. They showed 3 here. Now, let me take this map down for just a minute. I have slides of those earthquakes. I have slides showing those earthquakes, guys. They don't want to show them, apparently. It's very sad. Very sad thing they don't want to show them. Now, guys, this is not an oil refinery. This is where they have steam that comes into this area near Brawley, California. And notice they have 4 turbines here. They have 4 turbines here. Steam, actually, they have 5 turbines here. These 5 turbines take that steam that comes in off the Salton Butte volcano and processes it here, spins the turbines here to generate electricity for Imperial Gas and Electric. This is just one set of turbines here. Only one set of turbines here. It's not the only ones that are here, though. Okay? This is the Brawley seismic zone. This is the Brawley seismic zone. That red line here is a San Andreas fault. San Andreas fault. When the San Andreas fault reaches the Imperial County to the north, they term it the Imperial Fault. So if you hear me talk about the Imperial Fault, it's actually San Andreas Fault. Runs all the way down from Northern California up the Cascadia subduction zone, all the way through Northern California, all the way down from Northern California through Southern California, and all the way down in southern Mexico. The San Andreas Fault here. This is down here near Brawley, California, where these earthquakes hit early this morning. Right here. Actually, that's not the one I want to show you here. That's not the one either. Right here. This is the image that USGS had for us earlier. Notice in this image here, they have 4 different turbine facilities here. Not facilities, 4 different turbines. They have 4 different turbines here. They're showing 3 earthquakes. They're showing 3 earthquakes, guys. They actually had 18 earthquakes. They had 18 earthquakes. See that wide line here? That is represented 4 different turbines in this facility. 4 different turbines in this facility. There are 3 different turbine facilities here. 3 different turbine facilities here. What do they do? Okay. Now, let's go back to the USGS map for just a minute. I want to show you what these turbine facilities do here. Okay. That's where the earthquakes are located here. There are 18 earthquakes that hit. USGS now is showing 2. They took the other one down. Let's move this out here. Okay. Up here in the southern side of the Salton Sea here. This is an inland sea here in Southern California in the Imperial Valley. Here in the southern end of the Salton Sea here is what they call the Salton Butte volcano. It is an active volcano. It's capable of putting up a huge level of magma here, and it's capable of putting lava out here on the surface of the earth here in the Imperial Valley. It's capable of quite an eruption here. Quite an eruption. The Salton Butte volcano. Here in this area, guys, we have 9 different facilities throughout the Imperial Valley here. 9 different turbine processing facilities where men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano to obtain steam to power turbines here to generate electricity. This earthquake hit here just a little while ago. It's red, meaning it just occurred. This earthquake here is a 1.4 tremor here. 1.4 tremor. Just south of that tremor is one of the processing facilities where they have turbines. They have turbines here. All along the roadways here, guys, all along the roadways here, they have PVC pipe that take the steam over here to the turbine facility that process it, clean it up, and run through the turbines to generate electricity for Imperial Gas and Electric. This is just one of those turbine facilities here. Let me show you another one here. It's right here. It's right here, guys. Okay? Turbines are all over in the Imperial Valley. There are 9 turbine facilities here in the Imperial Valley. I've now shown you 4 already. 2 down south around Brawley. There's also a 3rd down there. I've shown you 2 here as well. Okay? There's another one here. Right here. Okay? Just to the north here, on this plot of land here, on this acreage of land, there's one facility here. You see the steam rising. And further south on this acre, there's another steam facility here with more turbines here. Turbines all throughout this area. All over, guys. Literally all over. Earthquakes every day throughout this area. Over here in the town of Calipatria. In the town of Calipatria here. This is the town of Calipatria. There's a seismograph here in this town. And it records earthquakes here in this northern part, or actually the southern part of the Imperial Valley here, just south of the Salton Sea here. Records earthquakes here. On this particular seismogram, guys, we typically see anywhere from 75 to 150 earthquakes a day here on the Calipatria seismogram. Every day it happens. That's how many earthquakes hit here. Okay? Down further south here. Okay? You see Brawley here. You see Brawley represented by those earthquakes here. Over here, this is the town of Imperial. They have a seismograph here recording earthquakes. I showed it to you the other day. Earthquakes here every day. Not just every other day, but every day. Over here also further south is El Centro. El Centro, California. El Centro, California, that's Heber there. This is El Centro here. El Centro has a seismograph here. We showed you 18 3.0 plus earthquakes here. 18 3.0 magnitude earthquakes plus that. So those were 3.5 earthquakes here. 3.0, 3.5 small earthquakes here every day. This has been happening now for a year and a half. We've had these 3.0 plus earthquakes every day. And further to the south, this is the town of Heber. I showed it to you a few minutes ago. Okay? I'm going to mention Heber in my remarks about these earthquakes in Brawley, California in a few minutes. This is the town of Heber that I'm talking about here. This is down in the southern Imperial Valley here. The southern Imperial Valley here. Let's talk earthquakes in Southern California here in the Brawley Seismic Zone. They call this the Brawley Seismic Zone, guys. They call these earthquakes here in this area the Brawley Seismic Zone. Okay? Okay? Brawley Seismic Zone. Now, guys, when I show you this slide here, this represents a San Andreas fault here in the Brawley Seismic Zone. Fault goes deep into the crust here, goes deep in the crust of this county here, goes deep in here. They don't generally have deep earthquakes here, but here these are fairly shallow quakes. But it goes down here. The seismic area goes deep into the crust here, but not generating deep earthquakes. They generate shallow earthquakes here. This is how the crust breaks up here when they have earthquakes. I want to make sure everybody understands this. This is important. This is very important. Now, last night, just after midnight, in one single hour, during one single hour, guys, there were 18 earthquakes here in Brawley, California. 18 in one single hour. Not one of them was a main shock. It wasn't a main shock. That is a signature of what they call a swarm of earthquakes, like we've seen in Italy. Just like we've seen in Italy during the past couple of years. Swarms of earthquakes. Now, guys, here in Brawley, California, this is just a swarm of earthquakes. Unrattled earthquakes. They don't have a big earthquake followed by aftershocks. They don't have foreshocks. They just have a swarm of earthquakes that hit. That's what happened last night. This is not the only time it's happened, though. Okay? This same ground happened this way in May this year. In May this year. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what scientists are watching for and why you should be concerned about these earthquakes last night. Like I said, it just started just after midnight last night, early this morning beneath Brawley, California. Brawley, California is a farming town. Farming town maybe of 10,000 to 15,000 people. Again, 14 minutes past midnight, Pacific time. The ground under Brawley, California started moving. It cracked open. Cracked open with a 3.1 small earthquake. 7 kilometers, 2.5 miles south of the city, at a depth of 10.1 kilometers deep, over 6 miles deep. A shallow earthquake. That alone would not make news, though. That alone would not make news. It was a shallow earthquake. Small earthquakes happen in Southern California every single day. But 17 minutes later, another earthquake hit. 31 minutes past midnight. A 3.6 small earthquake also hit. Almost at the exact same spot. Again, I just showed you the map. USGS did not show this information at all. Okay? A little over 11 kilometers deep with that 3.6. Then a magnitude 3.4 hit at 1:52 a.m. in the morning. And the quakes kept coming. By the time the sun came up, monitoring stations had logged somewhere between 17 and 18 earthquakes, roughly in the first hour time period alone this morning. Most of them were between the magnitude 1.6 tremor and 2.8 minor earthquakes. Most of them were either tremors or minor earthquakes, going up in towards 2.8 minor earthquakes. Several of those were magnitude 3.0 plus. Several of those earthquakes last night were between 3.0 to 3.8. Now, here's what makes that pattern different from ordinary earthquakes. There was no single shock wave. There was no single shock followed by an aftershock. There was no main shock at all. Instead, a whole cluster of events all happened nearly the same time period, nearly the same size earthquakes, arriving at irregular, stuttering rhythms. None of them clearly the boss earthquake. None of the earthquakes were clearly the boss earthquake. That behavior has a name. Seismologists call it a swarm of quakes. But again, USPS is not being honest with any of us. They're not showing us exactly what happened here. They're not going to show us exactly what happened here. There were a lot of earthquakes here. A good-sized bunch of earthquakes. But they're not going to show them to us. Okay? About 36 people between Brawley and Holtville. I showed you Holtville on the map before. Holtville is further to the south and east. That's where we have a museum of sorts called the Salton Sea Desert Research Station with another seismograph there. All the earthquakes were recorded between Brawley and Holtville, and even Heber. Those earthquakes were upwards of 3.6, 3.8 earthquakes. Okay? 36 people filed reports with the U.S. Geological Survey. The quakes were all small enough or not felt at all. And these earthquakes were small enough not to cause any damage or injury at all. They were small earthquakes. Some, again, were not felt. On their own, a night like this is a nuisance, not a disaster. The reason this cluster of modest earthquakes hit, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. The reason this cluster of earthquakes hit is worth our attention. Okay? What happened last night has nothing to do with the earthquakes themselves. However, it has to do with where they happen. Because this particular patch of earthquake, this particular patch of ground here, sits literally at the doorstep of the most dangerous fault zone in the world. One of the most dangerous fault zones in the world called the San Andreas Fault. And this is right smack dab in the middle of the Imperial Valley. This stretch of the San Andreas has not moved to a large earthquake in more than 300 years. We talked about this on Monday. Every time this doorstep starts moving, every time this doorsteps in the Imperial Valley starts moving, it shudders the scientists. It shudders the scientists. They even have started shaking. They know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on, guys. They know what's happening here. They should be shaking. They should be shaking in their boots. Okay? They should be shaking in their boots. Because we all know what I've been telling you, that we are expecting at least a 7.5 to an 8.0 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault here in Southern California. It's going to happen. I promise you it's going to happen. It's when. We don't know when. But it's going to happen. The guys, why am I being so adamant about this? The simple reason is this. These kind of earthquakes hit, and there's a reason. When we see swarms of earthquakes, they only indicate that a much larger earthquake is going to hit. When we see swarms of earthquakes, they indicate that a much larger earthquake is going to hit. Okay? First, I think we need to understand what's going on with seismic swarms. The place right now that this is happening is Brawley Seismic Zone in the Imperial Valley. Again, it's one of the biggest patches of ground in California. To understand why it matters, we first have to understand why a swarm is not the same thing as a normal earthquake sequence. When most people picture an earthquake, they picture one big jolt just like they had in New Zealand, followed by a string of weaker aftershocks. Weaker aftershocks that even fade over hours and even days. That is a standard script for earthquakes. However, it comes from a single fault zone, comes from a single fault surface breaking and then settling down again. A swarm does not work that way. In a swarm, you get dozens or even hundreds of earthquakes clustered tightly in space. You get dozens or even swarms of hundreds of earthquakes clustered in one space. None of them dominating over the others, switching on and off in bursts like we have seen over in central Italy. These swarms can last days or even weeks. The magnitude 3.6 we saw last night was not the main shock. It was just the biggest so far, meaning we could very much see a large earthquake hitting any day now. We could very much see a large earthquake hitting any day now. Any day. What drives a swarm of earthquakes is different. A normal main shock is a stress problem. A main shock is a stress problem. The crust builds up strain until a fault snaps, doesn't it? The crust builds up strain until a fault snaps. A swarm is usually a fluid problem. A swarm is a fluid problem. Water and sometimes magma migrating through cracks in the rock, changing the pressure on the small cracks, letting them slip a little bit at a time. That's why swarms ignore the usual statistics. They do not decay like normal aftershocks. They do not decay like normal aftershocks. They can stall out completely and then restart without warning, because the thing pushing them is not a single fault relaxing. What we've seen in this area today is water, or should I say steam. I just got through showing you five different steam facilities where they're taking steam from the upper magma chambers, the Salton Butte volcano, to change steam into electricity. But some of that steam is also in the crust. Some of that steam from the volcano is in the crust as well. Okay? I show you 5 different geothermal facilities here. They pull steam from the upper magma chambers of the volcano, even over and towards Brawley, where the facilities turn that steam into electricity. Okay? It's processed at those geothermal facilities. There are 9 different geothermal facilities in the Imperial Valley. Okay? Also in this area we have the San Andreas Fault. The groundwater together with magma that we've seen flowing through magma chambers also in this area are interacting with the San Andreas Fault. The water in the ground, coupled with the magma going into the magma chamber of the Salton Butte volcano, are interacting with the San Andreas Fault. This fluid is moving through a fractured earthquake system, moving through a fractured fault system. This liquid, whether it be water, steam, or magma, can't stop. It can't stop, it can't just start up again. It's fluid, it's ongoing. Once you have the big one, which has not happened, the major quake, the worst is still statistically behind you, but we've not had the big one yet. In a swarm, you don't get that reassurance because there's no main quake. There's no main shock to put for you to put in the rearview mirror. The largest event might have already happened last night, or it might be coming towards us, which is an absolute certainty. The timetable of when it will hit is uncertain. It's uncertain, but it's baked into physics in the area. It's baked into physics of the Imperial Valley. And it is exactly why we had a cluster of magnitude 3.0 earthquakes last night. That's exactly why we must treat those swarms of earthquakes more serious than we would normally have an earthquake. Last night's earthquake was a swarm. We need to take a serious look at it. Okay? If last night's earthquake shaking felt familiar to people in Brawley, that is because it should have. This is not the first time this exact patch of ground has shaken. It's not even the first time this year. Just over 2 months ago, in May, on the 9th and 10th of May, the same structure around Brawley produced a far larger swarm of earthquakes. It first began with a barely perceptible 1.6 magnitude earthquake, 5 miles beneath the city. Then that seismic energy climbed to a magnitude 3.5 that afternoon. Then the magnitude earthquake peaked just after midnight on the 10th with a magnitude 4.7 earthquake, a magnitude 4.7 mod earthquake. That 4.7 earthquake hit just about midnight that night and woke many people out of their sleep. It knocked people off their beds, I'm told. And that 4.7 earthquake made field reports over in San Diego City, some 150 miles to the west. Field reports from that 4.7. That means USGS misidentified that earthquake. That 4.7 was not really 4.7, probably a 5.5 earthquake at least. Probably a 5.5 large earthquake at least. You don't feel 4.7 earthquakes in San Diego that happened in the Imperial Valley. 5.5, yes, or maybe even a large earthquake. We already know that USGS misidentifies earthquakes because they don't want anybody to realize what's exactly going on. Okay? One resident described it happening to a reporter at the time, saying, the quake shaking just kept on coming and coming and coming. The ground was still rumbling beneath them as they spoke. That May earthquake swarm is a key to what happened last night because it tells a story. It tells a story what the structure here on the ground is capable of. It's telling us a story of how this ground is going to operate when a large earthquake hits. Yes, it's going to happen. The May events and last night's events were showed depths between 2 kilometers to 15 kilometers deep. 2 kilometers is 1 mile deep. 15 kilometers is 7 miles deep. 1 is 7 miles deep on a small fault. The small fault is only in this area 3 miles long, running northeast to southwest, tucked just north of the tip that we call the San Andreas Fault or the Imperial Fault. Now here's the detail worth holding on to. The largest events in May nucleated at depths of 7 to 8 miles deep. The earthquakes in May were 7 to 8 miles deep. Very shallow earthquakes. This is not a coincidence. Rock is stronger the further down you go, which means earthquakes that start those depths begin under higher stress. Those earthquakes have more room to grow because they run out of fault line to break. A swarm event that starts far below has more potential to become something more bigger. Has the potential to become very big. Okay? So far we have had shallow earthquakes. So far. I actually hope it stays that way. I hope it stays that way, guys. Otherwise, we have a real problem. This same buried fault also lit up in 2016 and early 2017. So we are now looking at the same structure, the very same structure, reactivating 3 separate times across a decade. The same earthquake fault reactivating 3 different times across a 10-year period of time. The winter of 2016, this past May and now July. Swarms restarting on the same fault over months and years is documented. It's documented understood activity. What do we need to think about? Saving lives. Saving lives, guys. What has happened last night? What has happened last night has happened before. But every restart resets a clock on the one question nobody can answer in advance. Restarts a clock on one question and one question only that nobody wants to answer. Maybe no one can answer. Where does this particular sequence take us to? Where does this particular sequence top out at? The wider neighborhood has a longer rap sheet. The wider neighborhood on the San Andreas Fault has a different rap sheet. Totally different rap sheet. And it tells you where the ceiling actually is. The San Andreas Fault has a huge rap sheet up and down the entire fault. It has a different rap sheet up where it starts out on the Cascade subduction zone, the triple junction. It has a slightly different rap sheet down in San Francisco. It has a different rap sheet in Los Angeles. Down here in the Imperial Valley, it has a much different rap sheet down here. The San Andreas Fault, guys, is capable of an 8.5 earthquake. It's capable of an 8.5 major earthquake. 7.5 to an 8.5 earthquake. That's huge. Those are huge numbers. Those are numbers that can unalive a lot of people. They can unalive a lot of people, guys. That's what we're talking about. This is exactly what we're talking about here, guys. The San Andreas Fault has a huge rap sheet. In August of 2012, a swarm just north of last night's location produced 2 earthquakes above magnitude 5. August 2012, the San Andreas Fault, just north where these earthquakes hit last night, produced 2 earthquakes above a magnitude 5. Above a magnitude 5 earthquake. Why am I talking about it? Because, guys, we're trying to get everybody to understand what's going on here. The San Andreas Fault is not asleep. It's not asleep. It produced 2 active earthquakes, a 5.3 earthquake and a 5.5 earthquake, along with hundreds of other small earthquakes, aftershocks. Literally hundreds of small aftershocks. And those earthquakes did minor damage to Brawley. Those earthquakes did minor damage to Brawley. Could have been worse. Could have done major damage in Brawley, California, guys. Could have. Back in 1981, when I lived in San Diego. Let's think about this. What happened in 1981? Anybody remember? Over in Westmoreland. For those of you that have been with me for a very long time, you know where Westmoreland is. They used to have a seismograph there. In 1981, the Westmoreland earthquake reached a magnitude of 5.8. A magnitude 5.8 earthquake fault shaking. That is huge. That earthquake was felt in San Diego. Felt in San Diego, guys. But this earthquake behaved in a much more conventional main shock. With aftershocks, rather than just a pure swarm of earthquakes. Aftershocks instead of swarm of earthquakes. In 2020 now, another Westmoreland earthquake hit. The swarm there got busy enough that the USGS issued a formal forecast before the activity settled back down. The USGS issued a formal forecast. That's how big that earthquake was. Now, put that in your pipe. Put that in your pipe and let's smoke it here for a minute. Let's think about this, guys. Let's think about this. Let's think about this. Putting both those earthquakes together, 5.5 and 5.8 together, that's saying something, isn't it? Very large earthquakes. Now, in this case, the 5.5 and the 5.8 earthquakes kind of put a working ceiling on what we could expect in the Imperial Valley. Somewhere around a magnitude 5 earthquake, magnitude 5.5 possibly. Big enough to break windows. Big enough to cause a lot of heartache and discontent. Big enough to break windows and crack plaster walls. It happened. It happened. But guys, it did not happen on its own. The 5.5 and the 5.8 earthquake are the kind of earthquakes that level complete regions of people. Those are large enough earthquakes that can level regions of people, regions of land. We've seen it happen before. Now, let's talk about the San Andreas Fault. Okay? To understand why anyone would live anywhere near Brawley, California. Number one, it's the Imperial Valley. It's actually, guys, the breadbasket for California. Brawley, California is a breadbasket for California. They harvest more food from Brawley, California to feed every person in Southern California. The Brawley area guys can harvest more food in 1 year to feed all of Southern California. That's what the Brawley area does. The Brawley area of Imperial Valley. But in this case, we need to look at the entire Seismic zone and what's actually connected to it. The Brawley Seismic zone, guys, is not just a random patch of active ground. It's a transfer zone. It's a transfer zone, a kind of geological junction box. It's a place where the Imperial Fault is handed over by the people living in the Imperial Valley. They hand over the San Andreas Fault and call it the Imperial Fault. By some people, that handover started up in the northern Imperial Valley, north of the Salton Sea. But guys, this is where most of the activity is in the Imperial Valley here, in the central Imperial Valley here. Now, let me bring up the USGS map again. I want to talk about something else here, just real briefly. When we talk about what's going on here in the Imperial Valley, we can't just talk about El Centro. We can't just talk about Brawley. We can't just talk about Calipatria here. We have to go up here to the east side of the Salton Sea here, Bombay Beach. Here is where the San Andreas Fault starts going underneath the Salton Sea here. Then it comes out here to the south of the Salton Sea here near Calipatria, California. Here at Bombay Beach here, because it's where the San Andreas Fault here is, they have anywhere from 3.0 to 4.5 earthquakes here every day. Multiple earthquakes. Sometimes as many as 15 to 16 earthquakes, 3.0, 3.0, 3.5, 4.5 earthquakes here in Bombay Beach. Every day. Every day. They have earthquakes all over the Imperial Valley every day. But again, US just didn't want to talk about it. They want plausible deniability. Oh, heaven's sakes, Ron, it's not going to happen. We don't need to talk about it. Yes, we much do. Yes, we very much do. We need to be aware of what's happening here. We need to be aware of what's happening here. Bombay Beach is real. Brawley is real. Everything here. The San Andreas Fault, whether they call it the San Andreas or the Imperial Fault, it's real. It's a thriving, breathing fault zone. It's a thriving, breathing fault zone. We can't let it go. Okay? It's a transfer zone. A kind of geological junction box. Okay? The plate motion off the southern end of the San Andreas Fault, just after it leaves the Salton Sea and goes further south into the Imperial Valley here. It's important. It's important. It's important. The San Andreas Fault here is probably one of the most important faults in the state of California. One of the most important faults in the state of California. Maybe it's, excuse me, maybe it's one of three very important faults here in California. We've talked about the Hayward Fault before. We've also talked about, oh gosh, I'm just going to tell you what it is. All of a sudden, my mind just went blank here. The Calaveras Fault. Hayward and the Calaveras Fault up on the east side of the San Francisco Bay. Here where the Brawley seismic zone shakes, we're shaking right now in the middle of the Imperial Valley. They're shaking right now in the middle of the Imperial Valley here. It's real. It's very real. This specific stretch of the San Andreas begins here. It's also where it keeps seismologists up at night. The San Andreas Fault here in the Imperial Valley is what keeps seismologists up at night. It might be keeping us up at night as well. Again, this is the southernmost part of the San Andreas Fault. I could say the same thing about the fault that goes down into southern Mexico. But it's here in the United States where a lot of people live. It goes down southern Mexico, off the coastal southern Mexico where people don't live. This fault is exactly where it is for a reason. It's capable of a 7.5 to 8.5 earthquake. Okay? Before it comes down into here, into the southern part of the Imperial Valley, it passes many other towns and cities, including Bombay Beach, the Coachella Valley before that. Before that, the greater Los Angeles area. Now, this is a problem. That is a problem. The problem is silence. The problem is silence here. Why? Why? Because most of the fault has been silent, very quiet. That's not good. Quiet is not good in this case at all. Aubrey is asking, could the big one greatly affect the food chain in the U.S.? Yes, it could. Because if the Brawley area, if the southern Imperial Valley area is damaged, the roadways are damaged, they can't get any food out of the Imperial Valley, guess what? Other areas of California, other areas of the entire U.S. have to get their food from somewhere else. So yes, it could very, very badly affect everybody, the entire country, the entire state of California. But there's something else as well. The San Andreas Fault has not produced an earthquake, a major earthquake at that, for at least 300 years. 300 years. That's not good. The chronology of this, of its past ruptures, works out from digging trenches across the fault, which scientists have been doing now. And the scientists have been dating back the layers. They published that in journals in 2011. Now, the scientific journals have now been saying this. This is where everybody needs to stand up and take notice here. Linda Company is asking, you think it's keeping USGS up at night? I doubt it. I doubt it. Yes, there are some seismologists and geologists, whether they work for the agency or not. This fault is keeping them up at night. Why? Because when it tears loose, and tears loose around roughly every 180 years, doing that arithmetic, this section is not just past due, it's well past due. This section of the San Andreas Fault is well past due. When swarms fire off like they did last night, it's only saying one thing. The connection is the major earthquake could happen any day. The connection that pulls all this together is that the earthquake could happen any day. The small quakes are at the doorstep. The small quakes and tremors are at the doorstep right now. They're giving the scientists, they're giving people who live here a wrong feeling about nothing happening. But all it's going to take is a sleeping giant to be woken up by a push, a small nudge. Then the sleeping giant is not going to be sleeping anymore. It's going to be finally woken up. Then the real story is going to become very evident. The real story will become very evident. What happens after that? Once San Andreas Fault wakes up, there's going to be a lot of death and destruction. The San Andreas Fault, when it wakes up, it's going to destroy the Imperial Valley. It's going to destroy the greater Los Angeles area. And because there's going to be so much violent shaking here in the Imperial Valley, San Diego County is also going to feel a lot of shaking. Very, very dangerous shaking. I'll take you back to 2010. April 3rd, 2010, at the US-Mexican border. Just south of the US-Mexican border here. Let me show you this on the USGS map. You guys need to see it. It's an important part of this discussion here. Right here. Down here just south of the border in Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico, province of Mexico, we had a 7.2 earthquake here. A 7.2 earthquake. It was on the east side of the San Andreas Fault. Most people thought it might be connected to the San Andreas, but it was not. It was not. This shook northern Mexico here. It shook the entire Imperial Valley here. It shook greater San Diego all the way to the coastline. It shook Los Angeles up here into northern Los Angeles. Way up here in northern Los Angeles. It shook the entire Southern California region. 7.2 earthquake shook the entire Southern California region. I happened to be in San Diego that day. I was helping conduct a disaster drill in the city of San Diego, downtown. I was there. I saw plate glass windows fall out of skyscrapers in downtown San Diego. I understand the same thing happened in Los Angeles. Damage up in Los Angeles was less than it was in San Diego, but it was big. It was big. Okay? The San Andreas Fault tears apart roughly every 180 years. It's past due, well past due. When a swarm fires off like it did last night, that points to the connection of the fault. Could the small earthquakes, could the small swarms, literally at the doorstep, give the sleeping giant a nudge, enough to finally wake up? The answer is yes. The answer is definitely yes. But that gives us another question here. Gives us another question I don't think can be answered at this point in time. We don't know exactly when the big one's going to hit. That's a big question. We don't know when it's going to hit. But it's going to hit, guys. It will hit. The honest answer is this. Whether a swarm like this can trigger the San Andreas and fire off the mechanism. Fire off the mechanism. Is it enough? Where the mechanism is weak, but yet it's strong enough to trigger the big animal that's going to hit? In this case, distance is everything. Were the swarms that hit the Imperial Valley last night enough to trigger it? Possibly. Possibly, guys. That's the question everybody's answering right now, or trying to answer right now. The earthquake swarms right now can change a lot of people's lives. They can change a lot of people's lives, and they do. A magnitude 3 or magnitude 4 earthquake. Does it change over a range of time and range of miles? The concern is greatest when a swarm is happening right on top of the fault like it did last night. Right on top of the San Andreas Fault last night. That's the issue right here today. Last night's swarm is roughly 60 kilometers south of where we would have thought that the earthquake would actually hit. They were thinking last night earthquake would probably hit in the middle of the Imperial Valley here, or upwards of southeast of Los Angeles. Southeast of Los Angeles on the San Andreas Fault. It's close enough. It's close enough now we can see the actual stress it's adding to the San Andreas Fault right now. The swarms of earthquakes that hit last night in the Imperial Valley is adding to the stress on the San Andreas Fault. It's not taking away, it's adding to the stress that is already on the San Andreas Fault. This is documented around the world. A handful of swarms have gone on to precede much larger earthquakes. The overwhelming majority simply do not rise up. They sputter, then they fade. But I want to be very clear here about the most likely outcome, because it would be irresponsible to sell you fear without the base rate. The single most probable ending to this sequence is this, that it behaves much like the May earthquake did. It climbs, maybe produces something in the magnitude of 4.0, 5.0, rattles some windows and dies out over days or weeks without anything larger. But What if that's just the beginning? What if that's just the beginning, guys? It starts up, continues rattling just like it did in May, but then it gains in magnitude, it gains in horsepower. The numbers back this up. The numbers back this up. Across all earthquakes worldwide, only somewhere between 5 and 10% of moderate shakes turn out to be larger. 5 to 10% of moderate shaking turns out to be larger. In hindsight, to have been maybe a 4.0 shocker to something larger. The probability that given moderate earthquakes followed by a much larger earthquake within 3 days sits at approximately 6%. There's a 6% probability that the swarm last night in the Imperial Valley could turn out a large earthquake. These could have been foreshocks last night. But a foreshock can only earn that label after the large earthquake shows up. Until then, the seismic system that showed up last night is just that, a swarm. A swarm of earthquakes. It might lead to nothing, but it could turn out to be something bigger. 6% possibility of that. Yes, Linda, I'd love to tell the governor that. Now, when someone tells you last night was definitely a foreshock of the big one, they're claiming power that no seismologist has. No seismologist on Earth has. I can't tell you it was a foreshock at all. I don't think it was. But it could have been. But it also helps to know and remember the real proven hazard around here looks like it's not the swarm. The faults of the Brawley Seismic Zone Connect have a documented history of generally destructive earthquakes. Generally destructive earthquakes. The swarms have always proved before they lead to large earthquakes. It's a proven fact. It's a proven fact. The Imperial Valley produced twin magnitude 6.2 shocks an hour apart in 1915. Two 6.2 earthquakes hit in 1915. The El Centro earthquake in 1940 reached a magnitude 6.9. Just like the Northridge earthquake back in 1994. In 1979, it brought a magnitude 6.5 to the same valley. In 1987, it delivered a magnitude 6.5 at Superstition Hills. And in Elmore Cucapá earthquake, just across the border of Mexico, Guadalupe Victoria earthquake, a 7.2 earthquake, 2010. Those are the kinds of earthquakes that actually damage buildings, and hurt people. The swarm of earthquakes that hit last night, just like in May, is only the noisiest symptom. These faults, guys, are the real reason anyone in this valley keeps an earthquake kit in their closet. The reason to keep watching. There is a good reason to keep watching these earthquakes. This is not hype. This zone is one place in California where the USGS actually has an operational protocol to raise the published odds of a San Andreas earthquake rupture in real time. They have operational protocol to raise the odds of a San Andreas rupture at any time, at any place. It has documented sealing. It also has a documented habit of restarting. It has restarted twice, making the agency act. Why does that matter? In order to find out why it matters, guys, we have to go back to 2016 to see what happened. There's a genuine mystery sitting underneath the whole story. It's worth pausing on, because it is the same thing that actually should hold your attention. The noisiest patch of crust in Southern California sits directly on the foot of the quietest major fault in California. The noisiest patch of ground in Southern California sits directly at the foot of the quietest major fault zone in California. Constant hum on the doorstep. Total silence on the San Andreas Fault right now. Total silence on the San Andreas Fault. But the Brawley seismic zone moves. It moves. It swarms. It stops and restarts almost constantly. The San Andreas Fault, a few dozen kilometers away, has done essentially nothing for 300 years. And the quiet one is the one that can kill people. Scientists have a leading idea for why the San Andreas Fault has stayed silent so long. It involves a lake that no longer exists. For thousands of years, the Salton Trough was periodically filled by enormous bodies of water, called Kahila Lake or Lake Kahila, far larger than today's Salton Sea. Research published by Hill and colleagues in 2023 found something very, very remarkable. The last major rupture of the southernmost San Andreas Fault lined up with times when that ancient lake was full. When that ancient lake was full. The weight of all that water and the pressure it pushed into the ground may have been acting like a trigger, helping the fault let go on a regular schedule. The lake has been essentially gone for centuries. The modern Salton Sea is a shrinking remnant of it. A shrinking remnant of it. The Salton Sea is evaporating right now. It does not have a replenishment point. It doesn't have a river or creek running into it. It also doesn't have a creek or river running out of it either. And that may be exactly why the fault's clock appears to slow down. But here is the unsettling part of that idea. You need to remember this. If the lake was helping the fault release strain on time, then losing the lake did not make the fault safer. Losing that lake didn't make it safer. It just removed the trigger. The strain has been accumulating this whole time. Several meters of it are now stored in that section of fault. Nothing to help it release. The silence is not peace. The silence is a loaded spring with a safety stuck. The clearest present for how seriously we take a swarm here comes from 2016 at Bombay Beach. 2016 at Bombay Beach, right at the fault terminus before it goes into the Salton Sea. You see it here on the map, right there. That's September 2016. A swarm of about 100 earthquakes, topping out at around 4.3, broke out directly at the southern tip of the San Andreas Fault at Bombay Beach. And because it was right on top of the fault, the USGS did something it almost never does. It ran the numbers in real time and publicly raised estimated odds of a magnitude 7 or greater earthquake on the southern San Andreas Fault over the following week to as high as 1 in 100. That week, the USGS raised the odds of a 7.0 plus earthquake happening to 1 in 100. Those odds were huge. Those odds were huge, guys. And yet it could still happen. It could still happen. For context, let's put this in context here. Okay? The normal background odds in any given week are about 1 in 6,000. 1 in 6,000. That's interesting. This is a 100-fold jump. A 100-fold jump here. The California Office of Emergency Services issued a formal earthquake advisory a few days. The state was openly bracing for a large earthquake. But in 2016, nothing happened. The swarm faded. The odds decayed back down to within background within a week. Within a week. And the advisory quickly lapsed. No big earthquake followed. That's not a failure. That's not a failure of the science. It is a science working exactly as designed. A 1 in 100 chance means 99 times out of 100, nothing happens. In 2016 was one of the 99. But hold on to two things here. Hold on to two things from that episode. First, the system the USGS has built is built for disclosure, not concealment. When the odds went up, the public was told immediately and openly. The idea that scientists secretly knew when the big one is coming and are hiding it runs directly into the 2016 record. Let's repeat that in case you weren't listening. The idea that the scientists know when the big one is coming. They may have a very good idea when it's coming, and they're hiding it. That idea alone runs into the 2016 record, where they raise alarm in real time over a smaller swarm. A swarm smaller than some of what has been happening in the San Andreas seismic zone. Think about it, guys. This San Andreas seismic zone, guys, can produce a 7.5 to 8.5 earthquake. And second, the reasons the odds jumped so high in 2016 and would be lower for last night comes down to one variable that governs everything here. Distance to the San Andreas Fault. The distance of those swarms to the San Andreas Fault. Bombay Beach is right on top of the fault, literally. Brawley is about 40 miles away, 40 miles east of the San Andreas Fault. Think about that, guys. Think about that. To really understand why this zone swarms that way, as it does, you have to picture what is happening to the crust underneath the Imperial Valley, underneath the Imperial Valley farmland. That's the real issue here, because it is generally strange. Generally strange here. This corner of California is being pulled apart. Pulled apart. The Brawley seismic zone, guys, is the northern part of the fault. The northernmost part of dry land tip from the Gulf of California. The northernmost part of the San Andreas Fault north of the Gulf of California. Okay? This is important. For the most part, the San Andreas Fault is under nothing but dry land. Nowhere near any water. Nowhere near any water that makes a difference. The same tearing motion that is slowly ripping Baja California away from the mainland and opening up the Gulf here at the top of that rift. The top of the rift of the Gulf of California. The crust there is very thin. It is hot. And it's soaked with circulated fluids moving through a maze of fractures. Moving through a maze of fractures. That plumbing is the engine of the swarms. That seismic plumbing is the engine of the swarms. Remember, swarms are driven by fluid. Swarms are fluid driven rather than stress driven. And yet this is a place with an enormous amount of hot fluid moving through broken rock. Hot fluid moving through broken rock. Guys, remember that picture, that slide I showed you? Maybe I need to bring it up again here. Let me find it here. Right there. Look at all that broken rock. There's hot fluid running through there. Groundwater and magma beneath it. Hot fluid. Causing stress. It's almost a perfect setup to produce exactly the kind of stuttering or restarting that no main shock sequences that this zone of seismic energy is famous for. The strangeness of the swarms, the irregular rhythms, the restarts, the missing big shock. The missing big shock is explained by the same underground machinery that makes this one hotspot where a swarm can sit at a right point in time at the Great Fault's doorstep. The Great San Andreas Fault's doorstep here. This is huge. This is huge, guys. This is also where real science-backed concern enters the picture. Science-backed concern. And this really deserves an honest hearing here. The Salton Sea geothermal field operates in this same zone. The Salton Sea geological field, geothermal field, meaning the magma chamber underneath the Salton Butte volcano stretches out over a large area, even underneath where those swarms hit last night. The geothermal field, pulling hot fluid from the ground, pulling hot fluid out of the ground to make electricity, and then injecting fluid back into the upper magma chamber. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. They do it all the geothermal facilities around the globe. Hot fluid is under there. Hot fluid and magma could be the trigger that's pulled to hit that huge earthquake that's going to happen. Okay? The underground water, the groundwater, guys, the fluid that's been injected into the upper magma chambers of the volcano, the magma that's there, all that's heating up. Heating up. And that in and of itself can be the trigger that launches the San Andreas Fault into a huge fury. The 7.5 to 8.5 earthquake. That's the real picture here. And that real picture comes with hard limits. This seismic zone is swarming. It's been swarming for thousands of years. And only until recently have we been able to see it in real time. The research suggests that geothermal plant that I showed you several of them, the geothermal plant itself could set off a magnitude 7.0 earthquake on the fault. Yet that same geothermal field is still a distance from the earthquake fault. But that geothermal plant could be the trigger that sets off the magnitude 7 earthquake. Magnitude 7 plus earthquake, I must say. Induced seismic stress is real. Induced megathrust earthquakes on the San Andreas Fault is not just a thing. It's real. An induced megathrust earthquake is real on the San Andreas Fault. There's one more piece of information of last night you need to know, because a lot of you are going to arrive at this story having already seen it framed very specifically. A very wrong way online. Don't look at online. Online is not real. Last night on the Brawley seismic zone, the swarm of earthquakes. About 3 hours later, what happened? What happened? A 5.0 earthquake struck in Texas, in the Texas Panhandle, near a small town called Spearman, at a shallow depth of 6 kilometers deep. Within hours, posts were circulating claiming that 2 events happened at the same time. It didn't happen that way. It did not happen at the same time at all. Okay? They were implying that there's some kind of continental scale connection. It's not. As if the whole middle of the country had lurched at once. It did not. Let's take that apart cleanly, because dismantling it is honestly more useful than ignoring it. The 2 earthquakes were 3 hours apart, not simultaneously. They also were roughly 1,700 kilometers apart. And the stress from that one earthquake passed to another fades away within a few kilometers. Okay? The stress from the 5.0 earthquake can totally fade away within a few kilometers. Okay? So that earthquake that happened in Texas had no relationship to the earthquake in the Imperial Valley. Nothing at all. There is no physical mechanism, none, that connects a swarm in California to a moderate earthquake in Texas. It was not a moderate earthquake, it was a large earthquake. USGS can do everything you want, they can say anything you want, but it was a large earthquake. Period. The 2 quakes were not together at all. They were not connected at all. Not at all. What you're looking at is a coincidence of arithmetic. A coincidence of arithmetic. This planet we all exist on, produces around 150 earthquakes of magnitude 4.5 or greater every single day. This planet that we live on produces 150 earthquakes or larger every day. 4.5 or larger every day. 2 unusual things here. Letting on the same night is not a pattern. It is what randomness looks like. The Texas quake is its own separate story. An interesting one, but a separate story. It sits where oil and gas injection happens. That 5.0, 5.1 earthquake in Texas sits where oil and gas wastewater is injected into the fault that's been driving earthquakes for years. Injecting wastewater into that fault, into that man-made earthquake fault, brings up that oil and gas out of the ground. That's been the cause of earthquakes, fracking earthquakes for years. Okay? Years. That's called induced seismicity. Induced seismicity, guys. It's its own story. It is its own separate story here. It has nothing to do with Brawley at all. It has nothing to do with Brawley at all. However, we know for a fact what's happening over in the Imperial Valley. They have at least 9 different facilities that are injecting wastewater into the upper magma chambers of the Salton Butte volcano, which is also inducing seismic activity. Every time we induce water in that upper magma chamber, it's causing that water to expand, doesn't it? It expands. When that happens, the magma chamber also tends to expand, doesn't it? It also expands. When we send hot water in any drill point, whether it is over in the Imperial Valley to try to get steam from the volcano, or over in Texas to get oil and gas from the ground, the same thing is in play here. The same thing process is in play here. We're inducing seismicity. We are inducing seismicity. When the sun was quiet last night, geomagnetically it was calm, low numbers across the board, which retires the recurring claim that solar activity or planetary alignments are shaking the Earth. They're not shaking the Earth. Solar activity doesn't shake. Planetary alignments doesn't shake. It heats up the ground. It heats up the ground, allowing the faults and the plates more freely move like this. It heats up all that gunk and grime, all the biological material that holds those plates and faults in place, allowing the faults more freely move like this. Okay? That's what happens. But guess what? We also have humans in play here. We have humans in play. Humans that are injecting hot wastewater into already hot facility that allows the water to expand. Allows the water to expand. That expansion can also trigger earthquakes. The trigger here in the Imperial Valley here, the trigger here in the Imperial Valley is a driver. The driver. I'm talking about the great big huge physical plants that are driving steam into the turbines to generate electricity. Forcing water in the upper magma chambers of the volcano could be a trigger to the San Andreas fault popping. The trigger here on the San Andreas fault is local. It's local. Broken rock at the top of the rift caused an earthquake to happen. Fact. Fact. Arnold, get me a hot fudge sunrise too. I want one of those. Okay? Have a good time, Arnold. We love you, brother. Appreciate you being here. Guys, the San Andreas fault is ready to pop. It is. And there's not much any of us can do about it. We know for a fact what's happening. Plates are expanding and contracting. Plates are also causing the faults to move, putting more pressure on the faults as well. Things are happening. They're going to continue to happen. And what happened here last night over here in Southern California can happen at any time, literally at any time. What do we need to do now? Here's the part I'm promising you right now. The specific concrete things that scientists are watching right now to tell them whether last night was noise or the opening of something more serious. This is not vague. This is not vague, guys. There are 3 signals. You can watch for them yourself. The first is magnitude. The swarm climbs past last May's peak of 4.7 moderate earthquake, especially if it pushes towards the zone's historical swarm ceiling of around 5.5. That changes the risk picture. For a scale of magnitude 5.5 earthquake release, requires 700 times the energy of last night's 3.6. For magnitude 5.5 earthquake to happen, the release requires 700 times more energy than last night's magnitude 3.6 small earthquake. The events climbing rather than fading is the first red flag. The second signal is direction. Direction. Watch where the earthquake moves. Watch where the earthquakes move. Watch where the earthquakes move. If the activity stays put beneath Brawley, and that is a reassuring case, that is very much a reassuring case here. If it starts migrating north towards Westmoreland, guess what? Then it's also moving towards the geothermal field. It's also moving towards the geothermal field around Westmoreland, around Calipatria as well. However, the swarm in Brawley was 60 miles east of the San Andreas Fault. What if the magnitudes increase going west towards the fault? That means we're going to have a trigger here. That means there's a trigger here. And yes, the trigger could interrupt the fault, causing a major earthquake. And above all, if we see higher magnitude earthquakes heading all towards Bombay Beach, look out. Look out. That is a scenario that matters because that is the direction that would carry the swarm from 60 kilometers away to right at the top of the fault into 2016 territory. Location is everything. Location is really everything here. Okay? The hazard, the migration route of the seismic signals, the magnitude signals, it's the most important thing to track. The third signal is official. If the Geological Survey issues a formal aftershock forecast, if they issue a formal aftershock forecast, or the state of California issues an earthquake advisory like the way that happened around 2016, again in 2020, look out. look out. That is your cue that the professionals run the real numbers and have decided the odds have moved away enough to say out loud, you don't have to guess any longer. If that threshold gets crossed, they will tell you publicly the way they did before. Now let's bring this back to where we started. Last night, the ground beneath Raleigh, California moved, and moved in a big way. It all started shaking at the same time. Shuddering, shaking. No main shock rhythm. No main shock rhythm like had in May or in 2016 before that. The most likely outcome would be a wide margin earthquake. A wide margin earthquake. Okay? That is what happens every time we have a major earthquake. A wide margin system. It rises, it rattles, and then it fades out over the coming days without producing anything larger than a moderate earthquake. Now, if you live down there, and yes, we have Juanito and other EMA family members live down here in the Imperial Valley, also down in San Diego and Los Angeles, you need to understand what's happening. You need very much to be proactive, keeping track on your own what is going on. Your lives may depend on it. The realistic thing you need to do is prepare for a few more restless nights. Not a catastrophe, but a few more restless nights. The reason this is worth watching is not the swarm. It has nothing to do with the swarm. It is the fault next door. It's the fault next door. The southernmost San Andreas Fault. Silent for more than 3 centuries. Loaded with several meters of stored strain. Several meters of stored strain, guys. Sitting 60 kilometers from a patch of ground that will not stop moving, will not stop trembling. Science can tell you the odds at any given nudge when the fault will awake. Guys, you all need to be prepared. Right now, the odds are low. What science cannot tell you is why the most heavily loaded section of the most famous fault on Earth stays perfectly still while everything around it moves. They can't tell us why this huge San Andreas Fault, literally one of the most dangerous faults on Earth, stays still when everything around it moves. Why? Why does this happen? On which swarm, if any, finally ends in silence? Which swarm finally ends in silence? Which swarm will be the triggering mechanism of the earthquake? The 3 specific things to watch are simple. Whether the earthquakes get bigger, whether they march north towards Bombay Beach area, or further north than that, and whether the agencies issue a formal earthquake advisory. Until one of those things happens, this stays most likely where it already is. Stays most likely where it already is, at a noisy doorstep. At a very noisy, movable doorstep. We're going to continue tracking these earthquakes. I'm not going to stop. I've been following these earthquakes for more years than I want to even think about. I'm going to talk about it because you're going to hear it. You're going to hear me talk about it. I promise you, you'll hear me talk about it. Yes, Arnold, the boundary layers are heated up, making the layers look like clay, just like we talked about with Mount Rainier weeks ago. Okay? The heat around Mount Rainier, inside the Mount Rainier, is making that dirt, all that sand, all that gunk and grime around the volcano, made it into clay now. It's movable. That's why Mount Rainier is bulging. What do you need to do about it? What do you need to do about it? I'm going to make some recommendations right now. Earthquake recommendations for each one of you. Anchor heavy items such as bookcases, water heaters and dressers against stud walls, against stud laden walls. Overhead hazards. Move heavy pictures and mirrors away from beds. Secure light fixtures onto the studs of the ceiling. Number 2, plan to be safe. Communication. Identify out-of-state contacts and stay in case your phones don't operate in your town where you're at. Your out-of-state contacts are more than likely to be available to talk to you and talk to other members of your family. The local cellular networks may become jammed during regional emergencies. The best place to talk is to out-of-state contacts. Have a reunion plan. Have a reunion plan. Establish primary and secondary meeting places for your family members in case you become separated. Third, organize emergency supplies. Organize emergency supplies. Organize your go bags. Keep your go bags easily accessible backpacks for every family member filled with essential items, including flashlight, whistle, sturdy shoes, copies of vital documents, and cash. Make sure your home emergency kit stores enough food, water for at least 1 gallon per person per day. I'm going to say 3 gallons of water per person per day. And medical supplies to last a minimum of 7 to 14 days. A minimum of 7 to 14 days for medical supplies. Fourth, minimize financial hardship. Minimize financial hardship. Insurance. Protect your property. Minimize financial hardship by accessing your earthquake insurance if you can get it. Document storage. Safeguard critical paperwork. Passports, deeds, medical records, and waterproof digital formats. Safeguard critical paperwork, passports, deeds, medical records. Keep them in waterproof or in digital or physical formats. When an earthquake hits, remember this. I've talked about this almost every time we talked about earthquakes. Drop, cover, and hold on. When an earthquake strikes, get underneath a sturdy table or a desk. Get underneath that with your body and your head and hold on to the legs and stay there. Drop underneath, cover yourself with the desk or table, and hold on. Drop, cover, and hold on. Indoors, minimize movement. Drop your hands and knees, take cover under a sturdy desk or table, and hold on to the shaking stops. When outdoors, move to an open area away from buildings, away from trees, away from power lines and overpasses. Improve your safety after earthquakes. Assess your damage. Check yourself and others for injuries. Put on sturdy shoes and gloves to avoid cuts from broken glass and debris. Check your utilities. Check your utilities. Extinguish small fires and safely turn off your gas supply at the main meter. If you hear a hissing sound or smell gas, turn off your gas supply at the main meter. Reconnect and restore. Do not reconnect the gas supply yourself. Call your gas company. Call your gas company or gas service company to come out and check your system, make sure you can re-enter your home and turn on your gas again. They will do it. Do not do it yourself. Expect aftershocks. Expect aftershocks for quite some time. Always drop, cover, and hold on when those aftershocks occur. Official information. I've told you this before, I'm telling you it again. You must have an emergency radio. You must have an AM/FM emergency radio. Your radio should have the NOAA weather frequencies programmed into it. Prior to an emergency, locate your local NOAA frequency and make sure your radio is tuned into it. When you do that, during an emergency, you could tune into local official broadcasts. Follow the instruction from either the weather officials or your local mayor or governor's office. Your local city or county, or even the governor's office, not necessarily from California, but the governor's office or the federal government can take over the weather frequencies during emergencies. They can take over the weather frequencies during emergencies. Know that. Those things can save your life. The governor's office, the mayor's office, the president of the United States can give you updates for your local area and even recovery locations. Remember that. Remember that. Okay? If you'd like to get more customized checklists, tell me. Email me, guys. If you want a more certified customized checklist, email me and I'll send you a checklist. Not a problem. Are you looking to prepare yourself or your family? Are you looking to prepare a large family or a workplace? Give me all that information. Do you have pets? Let me know that as well. Do you live in an older, unreinforced building or a newer home? Let me know that as well. I am willing to help you. I'm willing to help you guys, but you need to help me as well by giving me that information so I can help you. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? I know this has been long. I'm sorry it's been so long. I'm sorry I came on the air so very long. I want to be on the air at 4 o'clock, but that didn't happen. I'm not going to make excuses. I was gathering information to come on this program. I felt it necessary to do that to help all of you. Guys, let God guide you. Let God guide you. I am very certain that God will guide you. I have faith that God will guide you. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ loves each one of us. Our Heavenly Father wants us also safe. He wants us happy. He wants us all to return to Him. If you don't have a testimony of Jesus Christ, get one. Pray. Pray to God and read the scriptures. Pray to God and read your scriptures. You'll get an answer to your prayers. I promise you that. I've done that many times over. I've gotten answers to most of my prayers. If I've been humble enough, I've been truly seeking for answers, I get those answers. You can do it as well. Brothers and sisters, I love you. I care for you. Today is Friday. If anything else happens tonight or tomorrow or even Sunday, we'll be coming back on there to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. I promise you that. Always and forever. On Sunday about 12:30, 1 o'clock, we'll be coming on the air with again another episode of Come Follow Me, the Savior Said, our weekly Sunday school class we've been doing for about 7 or 8 years now. We've actually 7+ years now. May God bless you. May God be with you this day and always. I say that because I mean it. I truly mean it. God wants to bless you. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Take care, everyone. God bless. See you soon. Good night.
Here at Emergency Management Associates, we're dedicated and true, bringing you the essential knowledge, helping you see things through. From disaster preparedness to navigating recovery's embrace, we're here to guide you in every unpredictable time and place. We break down the complex, make it easy to grasp and absorb, sharing strategies for safety, the vital lessons you can't afford to hoard. So thank you for watching, and thank you so much for your sub. You're a key part of our growing family, a member of our knowledge club. With every like, every share, and every comment you send our way, our critical message spreads further, helping more people every single day. Together we're stronger and more prepared. That's the truth we all abide. You help us build resilience with nowhere for uncertainty to hide. Your engagement truly inspires us. Your feedback acts as a guiding light, helping us continually grow and making our channel's future bright. We're always learning, always striving to be better, bring you the most up-to-date information, no matter the weather. Emergency Management Associates is here for you now and forever, it's true. Keep watching, keep learning, because we truly appreciate all that you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.